really pleased to be joining with all of you. I know we have many Marylanders in this group, but whether you're from Maryland or elsewhere, thank you for joining us. All of us in Maryland are so proud that this national treasure is right here in Prince George's County. I want to thank our state and local elected officials. I don't know if County Executive Alsterbrooks is here, but I want to thank her for terrific leadership. And to all the men and women who work here at Goddard, who work for NASA, who work for NOAA, who work for the Geological Survey, thank all of you for the very meaningful work you do each and every day on behalf of our country and, in fact, on behalf of people across the world. I am very pleased to be here today with my friend and former colleague from the Senate, and that is Bill Nelson of Florida, who is now the NASA administrator. I remember as soon as we heard that he was nominated as the NASA administrator, I got on the phone with Bill Nelson and said, I know you're from Florida. I know it's a big space state, but Maryland's a big space state too. And Senator Cardin did the same, and we are grateful that the new administrator of NASA, Bill Nelson, is here and has been here before and understands the importance of Goddard. And I'm especially proud to be here welcoming another friend and another former colleague from the United States Senate, and that is now our Vice President Kamala Harris. And you'll be hearing from her lately, but if you could give her a round of applause. And I want to thank her for all the work she's doing for our country together with the President. I want to especially thank her today for her leadership on issues involving the National Space Council, which she chairs, and also her work with President Biden in leading the global campaign to confront the climate crisis, and in the process put millions of Americans to work in good-paying jobs as we move to a clean energy economy. And that brings me to why we're all gathered here today. We just had a terrific tour with the leader of Goddard, Dennis Andrusik, and I want to thank him for his leadership. We are in regular communication. I also want to thank his partners at NOAA and the United States Geological Survey. And we were here to look at some of the very important work being done to highlight the mission at Goddard and these other federal agencies to tackle climate change. And investments here at Goddard and elsewhere around the country are giving us the information we need to better protect communities against the ravages and devastation of climate change, but also to better figure out and chart our way to confront the climate crisis. And I want to thank all of you for being on the front lines of that work, because Goddard and its brilliant scientists are the leading edge of NASA's climate work. This is the greatest assembly of Earth scientists in the world, and I want to thank you for your expertise and work. I'm pleased to serve on the Appropriations Committee, and I can assure you that we'll continue to work with our colleagues to provide the funding for the important programs that we just witnessed, including things like GOES, including things like PACE, including Landsat 9, and many of the other important instruments that you use to gather the data that then you put to work to solve problems here on Earth. But in addition to the annual appropriations, we can't be engaged in business as usual, and that's why the Build Back Better agenda is so important. Both pieces of it, the infrastructure modernization bill, as well as the investment in people power, in more opportunities for more Americans, including engaging them in the scientific enterprise and the enterprise of discovery that you are all working on. And I do want to say to my members from the Maryland House Congressional Delegation, including Congressman Hoyer and Brown, who I know wanted to be here, but they're at work as we speak, trying to pass the Build Back Better agenda through the House of Representatives. And that legislation includes significant investments in our NASA infrastructure, including close to home, a very important infrastructure program down at Wallops, which is, of course, part of Maryland's space assets. But whether it's NASA Goddard, whether it's Wallops, whether it's the Space Telescope, whether it's APL, Maryland really is a home for space activity and activity looking here at Earth. And I want to thank all of you for being part of that extraordinary effort. This is a moment that we've got to come together and address the crisis that's upon us, and that is why passing this Build Back Better legislation is so important. That's why I'm so pleased the Vice President and the President are so focused on this issue, restoring American leadership around the world and leading again the international campaign to address climate change. So now it's my great honor to turn the podium over to a person who, as I said, I serve with in the United States Senate and is no stranger to the important work at NASA. And I'm very pleased that he's now at the helm of NASA, and that's Bill Nelson. Please give him a warm Maryland welcome.
Hi, everybody. Boy, it's been a great day here at Goddard. Just terrific to have the Vice President here, to have my good friend, Senator Van Hollen. And it's an honor for me to be back to Goddard because you all are making the impossible possible. You're doing tremendous things. I think when the Vice President speaks, you'll see that she is a champion for NASA and for space. I saw that advocacy when we served together in the Senate, and this spirit of adventure in NASA is reflective of our American character. We believe in pushing further into the cosmos, but we also believe confronting the problems here terrestrially, and that's why we are involved in this climate crisis that is in urgency. Because extreme weather is destroying livelihoods and it's claiming lives. Greenhouse gases are trapping more heat in the atmosphere, and the Earth's surface is continuing to warm up, and the oceans, as a consequence, are rising. These are not coincidences, but they are consequences of climate change. To borrow a phrase from the legendary flight director, Gene Kranz, when it comes to climate change, failure is not an option. And the reality is, and you've heard the President speak about this, if we do not act, if we do not use the data that is available to us to make some real changes, the impacts of climate change will only get worse. And the least among us will suffer the most. The President and the Vice President are mounting a whole of government response to this threat. Now, we are known at NASA as the world's premier space agency. But we are also at the point of the spear on climate change. We are the leading climate agency, and the proof's in the pudding. For example, the Landsat program, it's an invaluable partnership with the U.S. Geological Survey, and for half a century, NASA satellites have captured 9 million images of our changing planet from space. From the melting glaciers to the reservoirs that are drying up in the droughts, we're witnessing climate change right in front of our eyes. Today, NASA released the first images of Landsat 9. We showed that to the Vice President. And it's building on this half a century legacy. And because we're not going to stop seeking a better life here on Earth, is why we're doing this, along with putting up 5 great observatories over the next decade that will give us precision in our measurements of the land, the oceans, the atmosphere, and the ice. And it will create a 3D composite that we can see in great detail, more detail than we have now, what is happening to our Earth. Well, I'm proud to announce a new NASA Earth science mission. It's called INCUS. That stands for Investigation of Convective Updrafts. It's going to be 3 little small satellites. They're expected to launch in 2027, and they will study the behavior of tropical storms and thunderstorms, including the impact on weather and climate models. INCUS will help us better understand extreme weather and prepare our communities and our families and our businesses before a disaster. It's a part of this 3D composite. And in the face of all these disasters, there are significant equity issues when it comes to which communities get the support. And when do they get the support? And this new mission will help us address that, ensuring more equitable disaster preparedness and response. NASA data has the power to change and even save lives. And expanding that data access is crucial, and that's why we are exploring the idea of a climate mission control. A mission control, just like you've seen in the launches, and since you've seen since the old Apollo days, mission control. A mission control for climate change. Exploring the heavens will always be at the core of NASA's mission, but so is confronting the challenges here on Earth. And tackling this climate change is imperative. This administration's Build Back Better legislation right now, that is, the vote is underway on the floor of the House of Representatives as we speak, and it's been going on for over an hour and a half. So you know what's happening. They're trying to round up the votes. Well, in that bill, there's $365 million more for NASA for climate change. From earth science programs to investments in sustainable aviation. We're developing electric aircraft. It's time for Congress now to do its part and to pass it. And that senator is leading the way. And when this bill does pass later today in the House, it's coming to the Senate. And they've got to have all 50 Democrats so that the Vice President can break the tie, because they're not going to get one vote on the other side. That senator is helping lead the charge. And so in all of this scientific and research and technology, it's creating good paying jobs and new industries that are all addressing climate change. And this agency is confronting Earth's greatest existential threat. We are making investments today to protect future generations, and will unite and inspire America to build back better. And now it's my privilege to introduce a space visionary, a space aficionado, and the person in her role as President of the Senate that will break the tie for the Build Back Better bill. Ladies and gentlemen, the Vice President of the United States.
Good afternoon, everyone. Please have a seat. Good afternoon. Bill Nelson, it is so wonderful to share a stage with you. We served together in the United States Senate, and I know you have very fond memories of your years as a leader in the United States Senate, but I think your first love, aside from grace, has always been space. So it is so good to be with you. And, you know, the administrator's right. I'm glad that you talked about the bills that are before Congress. The American people have waited long enough, and we need to get this done. So thank you for your comments. It is wonderful to be here at NASA. I was just looking out the window, almost with my nose pressed against the window as we were driving in, to be able to arrive at this storied place where so much of the ingenuity, the innovation, the brilliance, the skill of scientists, of engineers, of the people who you are, who make up the team at NASA, where this work is done. It really is my privilege to be with you all today and to personally thank you for the work you do every day. It inspires your country. It inspires our country. Chris Van Hollen, Senator Van Hollen, and I were classmates when we entered the United States Senate together. And I have been seeing him firsthand in the halls of the United States Senate when the cameras are on and when the cameras are off. And he's always the same person, fighting for Maryland, fighting for what's right, and doing it always in a way that is about elevating a discussion to require people to focus on what really impacts people in their lives every day. Senator Van Hollen, I want to thank you for your leadership every day. Thank you. Thank you. And I know our friend Ben Cardin was going to be here, as well as Majority Leader Steny Hoyer, unfortunately, Senator Cardin had to get on his way because he's going to go and represent the United States at COP26. And so he's on his way. And then, of course, Majority Leader Hoyer is doing the work that Bill Nelson is talking about, working hard at Capitol Hill. But I do want to thank them for their leadership. Thank you also to the leaders of the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. Thank you to the United States Geological Survey. And again, thank you to all of you at NASA. And in particular, I want to thank you all for what you do to keep elevating the discourse and the imagination and the spirit of not only what can be done and who does that work here in the United States, but you really do inspire people all over the world. And there are many ways in which we can talk about the work that we do in space. You all know that. But I'm going to talk today about the opportunity of space. The opportunity of space. So it was 60 years ago that Alan Shepard became the first American to travel into space. He was up there for only 15 minutes, but the world waited with bated breath until his safe return. Alan Shepard's short flight broke barriers, literally and figuratively, as have so many of you. That flight gave President John F. Kennedy and Vice President Lyndon B. Johnson the confidence to set our energy and our resources toward putting an American on the moon. In the decades since, 12 Americans have walked on the moon, and even more have orbited the Earth. In the decades since, our nation has launched space stations and satellites, sent rovers to Mars, and witnessed the birth of new stars. With the technology we have developed to explore space, from camera phones to CAT scans, we have improved life on Earth. With the perspective we have gained from space, we have reminded many, many folks, and we have been reminded of how precious our Earth really is, and how delicate it is, and how fragile it is. But while the exploration of space defined the 20th century, I believe that the opportunity of space will define the 21st century. Today, our nation is more active in space than ever before, and there are more ways than ever before that space can benefit humanity. I believe it is incumbent on all of us then to seize all the ways in which space can help us solve our biggest challenges, including that of the climate crisis. The world leaders who gathered at COP26 this week were very clear. They were not ambiguous. They didn't skirt around the issue. They were clear, and they were decisive, and they were declarative. Climate change is an existential threat, and we must take immediate action to address it. As our nation works to meet our climate commitments, we know that our actions cannot be limited to only what we can do on Earth. Right at this minute, we are monitoring emissions and measuring the impact of climate change from space. We have a fleet of satellites and sensors providing citizens and scientists with the data that you need to mitigate the impact and to adapt to the impact. Take Landsat 9, which was assembled, of course, here at Goddard and launched into space last September. As we just saw, Landsat 9 can provide real-time images of our nation's landscape. As natural disasters are increasing in frequency and ferocity due to climate change, these images can be used by first responders to help save lives. These images can be used by farmers to assess their crops as drought and heat threaten their yield. These images can be used by scientists who are working to combat climate change head-on. And another satellite within our fleet is at a university, a local university that I recently visited, Hampton University, an HBCU in Virginia. When I was on that campus, I saw the Ames satellite mission. Students there were working with scientists to understand the connections between climate change and atmospheric changes. So here's the bottom line. I truly believe space activity is climate action. Space activity is education. Space activity is also economic growth. It is also innovation and inspiration, and it is about our security and our strength. So as chair of the National Space Council, I will convene leaders from across our administration for an inaugural council meeting on December 1st. I'm really looking forward to that. And at that meeting, we will outline a comprehensive framework for for our nation's space priorities. From our civilian efforts, like those we have seen today, to our military and national security efforts, to STEM education, and the emerging space economy. And what is abundantly clear is that when it comes to our space activity, there is limitless potential. When Alan Shepard launched into space 60 years ago, he named his space capsule the Freedom 7 to honor NASA's first group of 7 astronauts. Freedom. Freedom is not just about the feeling of flying through space at 5,000 miles per hour. Freedom is about opportunity. So as we go forth from here, let us continue to seize the opportunity of space. And again, I thank you all for the work you do each and every day. The work you are doing will impact people around our globe, around this beautiful, precious planet we call Earth. And I cannot thank you enough. Have a good evening. Thank you.